Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we live in. So in today's video, we're going to look at part 3 of the Nicola Bulley docu-series. So if you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, I'm going to put a link in the description so that you can, be a good idea to watch those first. So, Nicola Bulley, on the 27th of January 2023, which was a Friday, 45-year-old British woman Nicola Bulley dropped her 2 daughters off at school in St Michael's and Wyre, which is a small village in Lancashire in the north of England. It was like any other normal day. She then took her beloved Springer spaniel Willow for a walk beside the local River Wyre, as she had done almost every day for many, many years. Down by the river, the local River Wyre, a shallow, slow-moving river, by the way. She then literally disappeared into thin air, leaving behind her only an agitated dog, her mobile phone, and the dog's harness on the bank of the river. Lancashire Constabulary immediately said there was no evidence of either suspicious activity or third-party involvement in the disappearance, and immediately stated that their working hypothesis was that she had fallen into the River Wyre. However, an extensive search of the river and the surrounding land involving police, divers, mountain rescue, fire department, helicopters, sniffer dogs and drones did not find Nicola. On the 19th of February, 23 days later, Nicola's body was finally found in the river by a man and a woman walking in the area about 1 mile, 1.5 kilometres downstream of St Michael's on Wyre. This man was a medium, Jason Rothwell. Her inquest, which concluded in 2023, determined that Nicola Bulley's death was due to accidental drowning, and her family seemed satisfied with this verdict. Nicola's case drew international attention. With much speculation on both mainstream and social media as to what had really happened to her. Even now, after the result of the inquest and the College of Policing review of the case, which was released in October 2023, speculation continues as to what really happened. This speculation has been fueled by many anomalies and strange events surrounding the case. In this docuseries, I will be looking at some of them and asking, how do we view these things now in view of the information that has come to light in the intervening time? Mystery number 3. In this video, I will be looking at mystery number 3, which is the initial search. We're going to be looking at the early searches, the first response by the police and the early search. Let's chat. Where do we start with this early search? Now, most of the problems, I believe, started with the early search and the way that it was not dealt with properly right from the beginning. So from the moment Nicola disappeared, unknown to the public, she had been classed as vulnerable due to comments made by her partner Paul and her family that she was struggling with alcohol and the menopause. Also, the welfare check on the 10th of January. But as the public, we did not know about those things at the time. And these things did not come to light till much later on. So yeah, one of the things was what her partner Paul, this is Paul Ansell, her partner, this is what he said to the police on the very first day that Nicola went missing, that Nicola had some problems with alcohol and the menopause. And then, of course, it came out about the welfare check that had happened on the 10th of January. So the police knew about these things. So the police immediately, almost instantly, declared that they believed she had gone into the river. The bench area where her phone and the dog harness was found was never cordoned off and treated as a crime scene. This is one of the big reasons that people started to think it should have been cordoned off. It should have been cordoned off because the phone was still, really, I don't think we're still quite clear where exactly the phone was found. Was it on the bench? Was it the side of the bench? The harness was found on the bank of the river, apparently. But none of this area was ever cordoned off. So, before anyone had a chance to think, well, hang on, where is she? People had got police, public, friends, family, etc. It seemed like the Wilde and his dog literally had been in this area, but the crime scene, or what could have potentially been a crime scene, was never ever cordoned off. This was a huge mistake, as no evidence was ever found that she had slipped and fell in, as later was determined by the inquest. As I say, police, journalists, mountain rescue teams, etc., descended very quickly on this area, and also the public as the news got out of Nicola's mysterious disappearance. So this led to a lot of speculation of police cover-ups. Why was the area not cordoned off? Must be a cover-up by the police. Masonic influences. Lots of different theories were given out as to why this area was not cordoned off. I think it simply was a terrible mistake. But many people still believe in these police cover-ups today. I don't think the reputation of the Lancashire police has ever recovered or even will recover, certainly not for a good few years before people's memories start to fade. Because no matter what a hypothesis is, and a hypothesis was come to very quickly that Nicola was in the river because of lack of, they didn't believe in foul play because there was a lack of other phone data in the area. But of course, they wouldn't have known that right from the beginning. They have to find out about the phone data. So I think because of what Paul had said and the family had said about her having vulnerabilities, they just and the harness being on the bank of the river, they just assumed she had gone into the water. But her dog, Willow, a Springer Spaniel who loved water, was not wet. So the dog had not gone in after her, let's put it that way. In my opinion, no matter what the hypothesis is, all possibilities should be considered until the hypothesis is proven. And the police, in fact, we're going to read from the College of Policing report, which was made later that year, like an inquiry into the whole case. and they do admit that it should have been done, but it can't. And I'm sure that'll be implemented in other cases. I'm sure they have learnt lessons, and they did admit the failings, that scene was not cordoned off, because even if there was no evidence to gather, it would have made the public, trust more in what the police said. And for some reason, Nicola's case captured the public, didn't it? It completely captured the public. And, the public just couldn't get enough information about Nicola. I think it was the fact that it captured the public not only in the UK, but all over the world. A mother of two going about her daily routine, dropping her kids off at school, taking her dog for a walk, and disappearing into thin air. This touched a chord with people all over the world. This case received global attention, more or less from the outset. And, of course, led to a lot of speculation about police cover-ups. Where was Nicola? And so this failing was addressed in the College of Policing report later that year in October. And I have read the whole thing. I read it out. There is a playlist on my channel. I read it out in chapters for people, that could, because it's a massive document. So, not everybody can read through a big document like that. But I did do a series. I'll try and remember and link make the link in the description, as I will refer the link of parts 1 and 2 of this documentary series as well, docu-series. It's a little series, a summary. I thought it would be good to look back over everything in the view of things that we know now, because there's a lot of things that have happened in this case. So this is the crime commissioner at the time, Andrew Snowden. And this is the guy that was in charge of the College of Policing report, Andy Marsh, who is now a Sir. He's been knighted. Anyway, they announced the College of Policing report when it was opened last October. So this is what they admitted, that despite the fact that accident was the working hypothesis right from the beginning, the area should still have been dealt with differently until this hypothesis was proven. And I'm going to read out here what they say. Early response. On Friday the 27th of January 2023 at 11:01, Lancashire Constabulary received a 999 emergency call from Paul Ansell, who raised concern for the welfare and safety of his partner, Nicola Bulley. Now, I have tried to get a copy of that 999 call, the transcript or something, but they're not releasing it under the Freedom of Information Act. Mr. Ansell had last seen Nicola early that morning, preparing to take their two children by car to school, and footage recorded by their house's video doorbell supported this. Now remember, I am reading directly from the College of Policing report here, so if any of you feel that any of that is not correct, please leave details in comments. But I just want you to know it's not what I'm saying, it's what the College of Policing report is saying. So yeah, this is, I showed you a photo. This is, they drip fed us a bit of camera footage. This is supposedly them all leaving in the morning. You've got the dog, the two children going to school. I think Nicola, maybe she was already in the car there. There's Paul. He didn't go with them. He supposedly saw them off. But we never see the car leaving. We don't see him going back into the house. We've never seen the full CCTV, which to me is also a reason why people speculate. So let's see, what else do they say? So this footage also corroborated the location of Mr. Ansell that morning, confirming his continued presence at home. But we've never seen him go back into the house. You know, people might say, oh, it's none of your business, but it would make people stop speculating. You know, what? It's not private, is it? Surely it's a doorbell camera. They've showed that bit. Why did they not show Nicola driving off, and why did they not show Paul go back into the house? There's probably nothing in it, but all I'm trying to say is these are the things that make people, you know, give people something to talk about. Prior to calling to the police, Mr. Ansell had been contacted by the school, who informed him that the family dog had been found running loose and distressed by a bench in a field near to the school. Nicola was known to often walk in this field with her dog along the River Wyre. Her mobile phone had also been located on the bench, right there saying located on the bench, along with the dog's harness and lead, which were found lying on the ground between the bench and the riverbank. The riverbank at this location is short but steep, with no footholds or handholds. Believe me, I've been there. It's quite a long slope. It would be very difficult to fall down there. You'd have to be standing right on the edge. That's another reason why people, you know, the bank sort of, there's no reason for you to go onto the bank anyway, because you would be on the path. You know, even one of Nicola's neighbours said that, you know, it's almost impossible to fall down there because the bank slopes down for quite a long time. You know, so unless you sort of fell and then rolled over, or if you were standing right on the edge and you fell in, or somebody pushed you in, you know. So this is the speculation. As the dog was still unleashed, this gave an indication that Nicola had not been ready to leave the field. Now that, to be fair, is just not true, because Anne-Marie said that the leash, it was like a retractable leash and it was attached to the collar. She definitely said that. Anyway, Mr. Ansell, I'm just reading out what this says. Mr. Ansell telephoned the police before making his way to the location to retrieve her items and conduct a search. So this is another thing, you know, whether Paul, you know, some people think Paul had something. This is Paul Ansell, her partner. Did he have anything to do with Nicola's disappearance? Well, the thing is, if he did, he just went down there, got her phone. He was in charge of her phone then, you know, so we don't know if he had anything to do with it. I'm not saying that he did, but this is what's fueled all the speculation again, that the crime scene was not secured, and really, you know, her phone should have been given to the police, shouldn't it? You know, because at this moment in time, this woman's just disappeared into thin air and nobody knows what's happened to her. And women do disappear, and they do get abducted, and they do get RAPED'd and murdered when they're out walking their dog. So all this should have been dealt with so much more differently, shouldn't it? Okay. And then following the emergency call at 11:01, the incident was initially recorded as a call for concern by the call handler. However, following a review of the information in this initial telephone call by the district response inspector, it was upgraded within 27 minutes and declared as a high-risk missing person. So this must be due to things that Paul or the family had said to the police about her vulnerabilities. This triggered a constabulary response, undertaking prioritised tasks and actions. In this 999 call to the police that you can't get transcript for, Mr. Ansell stated that Nicola had been recently suffering from mental health, had been experiencing the menopause, and had been suffering from depression. So instantly, Mr. Ansell told the police all this. He also stated that she'd been okay that morning, nothing untoward. and that this is very unlike Nicola, totally out of character. This was recorded in the initial call log. I felt like when we do see there is some CCTV video of her, she did look angry to me, but that's just a feeling. I don't know if she was. He seemed to be looking at her as if he wasn't sure what her mood was. She seemed to stomp into the car. That's just a feeling that I had when I watched it. The initial response was overseen by local chief inspector, and this was Sally Riley. We're going to look at the different police officers that were involved in this case, because there was a lot of changes and a lot of strange things happened. Anyway, a significant number of multi-agency resources were deployed that morning in support of the uniformed local response. These resources were coordinated by the Missing Person Search Manager, providing specialist direction and experience. Her Majesty's Coast Guard was contacted, and further specialist support services were deployed, consisting of... Now, when you listen to this is to me the biggest mystery of all. Why Nicola was not found right on that very first day when all these people went out to look for her. The Lancashire Constabulary Dog Unit, Lancashire Constabulary Drone Team, the investigating officers, Lancashire Fire and Rescue Service, Swift Water Team, Bowland Pennine Mountain Rescue Team, Lancashire Air Search and Rescue, National Police Air Service, Northwest Police Underwater Search and Marine Unit. And what they've missed off there, who also went, with the Fire Brigade. By 1442, an underwater thermal camera had been deployed to search the River Wyre close to the bench area, but with no trace of Nicola. The specialist support services deployed to the scene were directed to work according to the most likely theory hypothesis, as documented by the lead officer having assessed the initial information. There can be considered to be 4 categories of missing person: ill or injured, lost persons, voluntarily gone missing, or under the influence of a third party. From the outset, the working hypothesis, a theory that is provisionally accepted as the basis for further research but may be subject to change for this search, was categorized as missing persons who are ill or injured. These are persons who do not want to be missing but have suffered some kind of injury or illness that has resulted in them not completing a journey and subsequently being reported as missing. So, this is sort of how it was going at the time. Nicola had vanished. The dog was there, the harness was there, but Nicola was not there. This is the bench. This is the river. I think it's very important to realise that although it was cold on that day, it was very cold, but the river, this is how the river is. It's a slow-moving, clear river, really. So this is what has caused, why was Nicola not found on that very first day when everyone was there, all those people were there? Anyway, the lead officer also documented that 2 other categories, third-party involvement and the missing person voluntarily going missing, because some people just decide they're off, were not discounted. These categories were acknowledged as part of the search strategy from the outset. However, inquiries conducted by the investigation team did not provide any information or intelligence placing Nicola into one of those other categories. All searches were based on the working hypothesis that Nicola was ill or injured and had likely fallen into the river. You know, it's just beyond me that on that very first day, how they could make such a quick assumption, you know, before they knew anything else. It's very quick to make that assumption, isn't it? You know, maybe after they'd looked at the phone data or after they'd done more enquiries, but to immediately make that assumption to me just seems a little bit ridiculous. So yeah, all searches were based on the working hypothesis that Nicola was ill or injured and likely to have fallen into the river. The searches conducted also covered the adjacent land areas to the river in order to encompass less likely hypotheses such as a body deposition or a suicide. So even on that first day, the surrounding areas were searched too. Later that day, Nicola's disappearance was further reviewed at a senior management meeting chaired by a chief inspector. Searches were concluded at 7 o'clock in the evening due to health and safety concerns, as well as the challenges posed by searching in darkness. The priority search for the following day would focus on the river. So again, remember I'm reading off the College of Policing report. Scene management and control. So I'm still with the report here. The bend of the river near the bench was the most likely point of entry by Nicola, and it was considered the only safe entry point for the dive team. From the outset, I mean, that's a bit of a contradiction itself. You know, it's the most likely point of entry by Nicola coming to harm, but it's the only safe entry point for the dive team. From the outset and at subsequent visits by police and support services, a decision was made not to secure the bench and vicinity area with a police cordon. This is the biggest mistake they made. I think this is the thing that's led to the most conspiracy theories personally. At first attendance by LFRSs, it was not known whether this was a body rescue or a body recovery, and an effort to preserve life will always be the prioritised emergency service response. How odd. And not odd that it's the first response, but what's that got to do with the scene being secured? Based on the facts known at the time, the attending lead officer, deemed it unnecessary to demarcate and preserve a crime area. They recorded that had there been any indication of a crime, the area around the bench would have been cordoned. But there was no indication that it wasn't a crime. This is my problem with it. Prior to police attendance, Nicola's personal items had been retrieved and handled by several witnesses and her partner. So it wasn't only Paul Ansell that had touched the phone. It wasn't only him who touched it, of course. It was all the people that found the items. You know, there was quite a few people there. We'll be looking at that in a further episode of this. It wasn't only Paul who handled the phone. You know, the wilderness dog literally handled that phone. So, you know, that was it. So if there was going to be any foul play or any evidence of foul play that came up later, forensic evidence, you know, forget it, really. So the area around the bench had experienced the footfall of approximately 20 people. So just by then on that first day, approximately 20 people had walked around that area. The opportunities for any forensic recovery were considered both by the lead officer, the on-call detective superintendent, and the investigating officer, but with no criminal activity suspected, forensic examination was deemed to be of no value. Instantly. like that, just like that. I don't think by then did they even know about the welfare check. I don't know. They just that to me. I think in that moment they thought Nicola had thrown herself into the river. I'm 100% certain that they were 100% certain because of what they'd been told about her being vulnerable. You know, before they had a chance to check phone data in the area or see if there'd been anybody else around, and maybe someone pushed her in the river or abducted her. Before they'd even knew all that, they decided she'd thrown herself in the river, in my opinion. A crime scene examiner was not requested to support any considerations for scene preservation and a more thorough forensic examination. The notion of a scene and cordoned area was later discussed by the review team with the NPCC lead for strategic underwater search and the principal dive contractor. Their view was that while the investigation continued and the outcome was not known, a cordon would have provided greater control and protection to the area. Well, you didn't have to be Sherlock Holmes to know that, did you? You know, oh my God. The complacency and the inefficiency, you know, better to be safe than sorry, isn't it? You know, yeah, secure the scene, do all the investigations as if there is foul play. And if it turns out there is no foul play, you're covered. You know, you've done all the necessary checks and you've got the forensic evidence. You know, you do it right. So this is one of the other reasons, isn't it, why there's so much controversy over this case. You know, the police do have to take, I mean, to be fair, they did take responsibility for it in this independent review. We'll see. Well, it's supposed to be independent, it wasn't independent, of course, but they do say in the conclusions that it should have been done. So their view was that while the investigation continued and the outcome was not known, a cordon would have provided greater control and protection to the area. Additionally, the National Search Advisor and the National SIO Advisor both recognised the benefits of a scene cordon and felt it would have supported the open-minded approach to hypothesis, and it would have put a stop to a lot of speculation. Think about social media and mainstream media, because it wasn't only social media that speculated. Media, people are going to ask questions. Everybody got involved in this case for whatever reason. There's no point just saying, "Oh, well, you shouldn't get it. You shouldn't be interested," full stop, and not say anything. Deal with it. Deal with it. This is the reality of life now. Social media, mainstream media. People are interested when a woman who's walking her dog, dropped her kids off at school, just disappears. You know, it's not rocket science to know that you should deal with that properly. So while the working hypothesis was that a fall into the river had occurred, the first responders and lead could not possibly have ruled out third-party intervention and criminal activity at that early stage. The witness and CCTV enquiries that came to support the hypothesis were yet to be undertaken. Yeah, so everything that they used later on to say, "Oh, our hypothesis is correct," they didn't know any of that then. They had no information to support that hypothesis, or no more information to support that as any other. Their outcomes were yet to be established. If the working hypothesis had later turned out to be incorrect, later opportunities to recover the scene and conduct forensic examinations would have been lost entirely. So yeah, lucky for them that nothing, you know, as far as they're concerned, nothing came out to support foul play or whatever. Lucky for them, because it could have done. And then what would they have done? They can't go back in time and secure the scene. Anyway, it was concluded the following: that all incidents where it's unclear whether a crime has been committed, all responders should consider the potential outcome of criminal activity. I can't believe they didn't already think like this. You know, poor Nicola, what if something had happened to her? Maybe it did, because people still aren't convinced. I'm still not convinced what happened to Nicola was an accident. So decisions whether golden hour measures are required, including the preservation of a crime scene, will need careful consideration. Such decisions will need an assessment of the certainty of support for a particular hypothesis. It is often the case that at earlier stages of an investigation, the hypothesis or hypotheses can change. Of course they can. Once a decision and decision making must take account of this possibility. Once a decision is made not to seek or recover evidence, the opportunity is lost forever. The early investigation used a working hypothesis that Nicola had fallen into the river. From the information known at the time, this review considers the working hypothesis to be correct. However, the scene should have been cordoned off and subject to forensic examination at an early stage. So they did admit that they were wrong in this document. In doing so, additional benefits would have been realised, such as controlling who entered the scene and helping the search efforts. So, although this mistake was, as you heard, was admitted in the College of Policing report, and they probably will not make this mistake again, the damage was done. And we saw it in the Gaynor Lord case. I think that was in Leicester, was it? Or where the Lancashire police actually went to help and offer advice, because Gaynor Lord was another lady who very sadly went missing. And they did think she'd gone into the river, didn't they? But they immediately cordoned off the scene. It was treated as a crime scene, even though I think they felt from the beginning that she had probably deleted herself, and it turned out, sadly, I believe, to be true. And but they did it the right way. So the immediate, I'm going back to the report now, the immediate assumption that there was no foul play, despite there being no resolution as to where Nicola actually was, led to more speculation, and many of the public mainstream media, this is me speaking, and social media turned up at the scene to complicate matters further. Some people even tried to enter properties unlawfully to search for Nicola, and as the story grew more and more traction, a dispersal order was issued for people's own safety. And despite all these extensive searches, no trace of Nicola was found. Was it? So all the missing posters went up. There's a lot of things that we're going to examine in this docuseries that happened then. And that, Nicola was not found for quite a long time. And the fact that she was not found for such a long time led to even more conspiracy theories. But to me, the whole thing started with not cordoning off the bench area. The whole thing sort of started off on the back foot, and they never really got back on the front foot again, did they? They stayed on the back foot, really. So eventually the family decided to bring in their own search team. I think it was it a week later or maybe 2 weeks later? We're going to go into that in the next episode. After they were contacted by Martin Brunt, who is Sky TV's crime correspondent and good friend, best buddy of Peter Falding, who's the head of Specialist Group International, a specialist team that was on the police list of agencies who could be called on to help missing people if needed. We did not know then, but we know now, that although this would not lead to finding Nicola, it would cause even more heartache for the family and result in divisions that still reverberate now, over 18 months later. And that is what I'll be looking at in the next episode, I'll be looking at what happened when SGI, because the hardest thing about this docuseries for me to make has been that there's so much to talk about. You don't know what order to put it in. We'll be looking, one episode we'll be looking at Paul, the partner, and sort of what people were saying about him, and now looking at it, looking back, and especially after the College of Policing report and the inquest, maybe understanding a bit now about what happened. We'll be talking about Emma White, who is, someone who ended up becoming a sort of involuntary spokesperson for the family itself. We'll be looking at Peter Folding's revelation later on. But the next episode, we'll be looking at how the search changed when Peter Folding came in. And the police are now, initially, of course, see if I've got a photo of Peter that I'm sure you all know. There he is. Now, initially, the police were resistant to Peter Folding coming in, and there's all sorts of reasons for that. That again, we found out since the very night before he turned up there, he was on TV, well, on GB News or one of these rubbish news programs, saying how the police are doing everything wrong, and so I imagine he wasn't popular before he even turned up, even though he was right. The police had done they certainly done a wrong thing in not securing the crime scene, or I keep calling it a crime scene, but the area. They'd certainly done a wrong thing in that, but probably wasn't helpful, really, him saying that. But yeah, and so when he turned up, I think he was already not that popular, and then there seemed to be some sort of irritation about who had the best kit. We'll be looking at Emma, the friend sort of spokesperson, who did an interview about that. You just knew from the beginning there was some sort of bad blood between Peter Folding and the police for whatever reason. Things going on behind the scenes. I have been contacted by one of Peter's ex-employees who knows a lot about what happened, and they told me, I did video about that, they told me that the police were irritated with Peter. Anyway, so Peter was there for a few days, and we're going to look at that in the next episode, how he arrived. He then, he made a lot of media interviews, and we're going to look at them, and we're going to look at the College of Policing report and why he ended up making those interviews. That was another failing by the police, really, to control Peter Folding. He was just left to be a loose cannon, wasn't he? Go off and say this, that, and the other, make sort of implications that maybe something untoward had happened to Nicola. She definitely wasn't in the river, etc. So that was a whole other thing, and that's what we'll be looking at in the next installment, if you like, of this docuseries. As I say, I'm trying to keep the actual episodes, if you like, or the installments not too long, because people can keep up the concentration. Sometimes if a video goes on too long, it's hard to concentrate. But these things are important. The details are important. And to me, one of the biggest things, and to be fair to the police, they do admit it in the College of Policing report, the failure to secure the crime scene is a a massive mistake. And, it could have been dealt with so much better, couldn't it? And it just would have stopped, the police eventually. And now they will say that their original working hypothesis was justified because Nicola eventually was found in the river. But that question still remains and will remain forever. Why did it take 3 weeks for Nicola to be found? when all those people that are read out earlier, you know, the massive, I don't think anyone could dispute that they tried their best in that first couple of days to find Nicola. You know, the determination to find her, you know, was you couldn't fault it. But unfortunately, the way they controlled the scene was not good. And their conclusion that they came to, which I'll just read out again, at incidents where it's unclear whether a crime has been committed, all responders should consider the potential outcome of criminal activity. And they say that decisions whether golden hour measures are required. You know, they talk about this golden hour, don't they? The hour after a person goes missing, that's the most important time. So including the preservation of a crime scene will need careful consideration. Such decisions need an assessment of the certainty of support for a particular hypothesis. It is often the case that at the earliest stages of an investigation, the hypothesis or hypotheses can change. Once a decision is made not to seek or recover evidence, the opportunity is then lost forever. And I think, you know, that is so important to remember. And as I say, I think they did remember it with the JAYNE Lord case. And hopefully they will remember it now for all future incidences. But at the end of the day, will it ever stop the speculation about Nicola Bulley? Even now, the family seem to be, well, happy is not the right word, but seem to accept the inquest conclusion of accidental death. In fact, if anything, they were pushing for it. So, you know, but there are so many people, who cared about Nicola. You know, whether you think they knew her or they didn't know her, it's none of their business. They cared about Nicola. You know, people take an interest. They wanted to know what had happened to Nicola. I think Nicola just touched people's hearts, I think, because she was just out there, you know, walking her kids, taking her kids to school and walking the dog, ordinary life. And then when all this came out about menopause and stuff like that, people were angry. I was furious that her private, medical history had been discussed like that. Absolutely furious. Though now, you know, we'll be going into that later, but it seems like the reason the police came out with it was because somebody was threatening somebody else. Maybe some private investigator was threatening to, come out with it to the newspapers or the media. And that's why the police decided they had to say something. So to take the sting out of it, so this person could not divulge it to the newspapers. But it's just so sad for Nicola. And because remember at the time when this information came out, Nicola had not been found. You know, and I just remember thinking, oh my God, if I had run off because I just couldn't cope with things anymore. And then I saw that on the telly, everybody was talking about my problems with menopause and alcoholism. Well, if I hadn't already done something to myself, I'd go and do something to myself then. You know, because you won't be able to face everyone. You'd be embarrassed. Poor Nicola. Anyway, hopefully sleeping in the arms of angels now. Probably all those worldly cares have left her. But just so sad, and sad for her daughters, Nicola was a young woman, really. These days, 45, that's like the prime of your life, isn't it? And yeah, menopause, it's pretty shitty. It's not very nice. But, everybody goes through it. People come through it. So there's no reason to think that Nicola wouldn't have come through it. But so, yeah, very sad. Anyway, I will see you again really soon in the next video. There will, as I say, part 4 will be the second part of the search when SGI and Peter Falding got involved. So just to finish off, first of all, I'm going to show some nice pictures of Nicola, play some nice music, say a prayer for her and her children, and yeah, fly free, Nicola, isn't it? But I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God always go with you. Bye.